Everyday rituals and routines make great subjects for stories and shorts, and it really helps you hone your filmmaking and editing skills. So I'm going to take something perfectly normal that I do every day, which is making a coffee. I'm going to put together a fun story with maybe 3 or 4 or 5 clips to show that process. Now, in order to get the shots that I want, I'm going to find this much easier with the phone mounted on a tripod. So this is really going to help me frame these positions. So for my first shot, I want to see the actual equipment that I'm using. Now, I've got the Mocha on this plain white surface here, which looks nice, but there's still a bit too many things around it. So the first thing I'm going to do is zoom in to actually concentrate on the things that I actually want. And now it's a case of just arranging them to look the way you want them to look. I'm quite happy to leave the edge of my cooking hob here, though I like the way that this line diagonally cuts across the frame. So now I'm just going to try and arrange these in a way that looks nice to me. Generally speaking, I would put the smaller item at the front, and I would use any potential leading lines, in this case the handle and the spout of the pot here, to draw my attention to it. So I'm just going to angle this over here. The main action of the water pouring into it is going to happen here, so I need to make sure that that's clear. And I'm going to position this part of the pot there because it picks up a really nice reflection from some sunlight coming into the window. It gives it a really nice glow. And with my shot set up, I'm just going to move that over a little bit, I can start recording, and then I'm going to pour the water in, which I've got in a separate jug, so I don't need to go over to my tap. I'm going to pour it into this part of the pot. The next part of the process is to put the ground coffee into the mocha pot itself, but I'm going to change the actual filming angle to make it visually more interesting. Otherwise it's just going to look like a bunch of jump cuts after each other. It makes it easier and more interesting to engage with. And it's just a really simple process. I'm just going to literally move the tripod along to one side. I'm going to turn the phone around. And in fact, while I'm doing this, notice how I've gone from looking in this direction to the middle. And it means that for the next shot, I'm actually going to position the phone on this side, so there's actually some continuity in the motion in between the cuts, so it's not just suddenly jarringly going back and forth, although that again can also be an effective technique. So what I want to show now is the ground coffee going into the mocha pot. I've already got a spoon loaded up with some ground coffee and I'm going to pour it in. I'm going to do another one of those. I don't actually mind the coffee on the surface around it because this isn't necessarily a pristine process. Most people would probably spill a little bit, and you get a nice contrast of it against the white surface here. Now, coffee aficionados may prefer to brew a mocha with the lid up or the lid down, but I'm filming a story here, so I want to see the coffee coming out, so the lid has to be open. So I'm going to put the heat on at the bottom and turn it down a little bit so that it's making proper contact with the base. And I'm going to adjust this down so the flame is actually just on the bottom of the pot there. And again, I'm on too wide a view here, so I'm going to go for a 2x view here, which still has the flame at the bottom of the shot. We're going to see some nice brewing action in the top here. And again, I've repositioned my angle here, not by much, but I've also kept a consistent language here. I've started on the right hand side, then I've gone for a straight face on view, and now I'm to the left of the process. So the actual movement within the story when it's finished is going to look more visually consistent. And it also just makes it more appealing to look at. And now it's just a case of waiting for this process to take place, because that's the bit that we really want to capture. I'm hearing the brewing process just beginning. The coffee has started to come out now, so I'm going to turn the heat down so it doesn't get too dramatic. I want some motion, but I don't want it to splutter around too much. For this shot, I really want to see the coffee mixing with the milk in the cup. So I've gone for a clear glass cup here, and I've gone for a lower angle so that I can actually see that process taking place. If you're filming it from above, you're not really going to see it mixing together, but from the side you can get a really nice view. Now I'm not going to start filming this bit, but I'm going to pour the milk in advance. So I'll start that recording. I've got my mocha pot ready here on the side, and I'm going to gradually pour that in. And I'm moving the pot around deliberately and up and down, so I've got a bit more motion here, and also created quite a few bubbles on the top, which again might not be a perfect coffee making process, but it does make for something that's visually more interesting. So now it's a case of reviewing your footage and working out where you want to cut the beginning and the end of each clip. Now this is the one where I poured the water in, so I'm just going to play it through until that starts. And I think as soon as the spout arrives in the corner of the frame, I'd say about now. You see the water coming in, that looks pretty good, and I'd cut about there. Now for the next clip, this was the one where I put the coffee actually into the pot itself. And it's important to review these because it really helps you edit them together later on. And we can see here when reviewing the footage whether it looked good for the first spoon of coffee going in or whether it looked good towards the end. So here's the first one coming in. So we could do a cut here, there. So it's possible to just have that, but I think I'd prefer to see some coffee already in it. I quite liked it when the pot was almost full and I was putting that final spoon of coffee in. Okay, so this is going to be my proposed cut. We've already got some coffee in the pot. I'm going to put in the final spoon. Some goes over the edge, that's no problem. The next clip is the coffee on the hob actually boiling. Although the most exciting part is actually at the end, so maybe it would be worth starting it around now, just as it's halfway through until we get to the end, because this is where it's actually looking visually most exciting. That looks really good. In fact, maybe even just that part. Yeah, that looks pretty dramatic. And now for the pouring of the coffee into the cup itself. And I'll probably start that, yeah, just there, just as the coffee first hits that milk, because that's where you can see it mix